All right, welcome back. So we're still on the drop here, but I realized that I haven't let you guys listen to the whole thing through in quite a while, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that just so that we can all have some more context for everything that's going on. And then maybe I'll talk about a couple decisions that I might make in the future after listening to it. So here we go. All right. So a couple things I wanted to touch on is that on the last episode, due to a routing issue, these chords that came in weren't quite as loud as they should have been. So I fixed that issue. And another thing is you'll notice that I've had this part looped here, the entire drop, and it sounds pretty good when it loops back from the second part back into here. So I think what I'm going to do is copy this first part and paste it, and then basically have a whole nother repetition of this whole thing. And then for the second half, I'll just change a little bit of details here and there to give it a little bit of variation. So, and then another thing that I noted was that, there's a couple parts leading into the drop and just in the song in general before the drop that needs some transitioning work. But we'll get to that after we kind of flesh out the last few parts of the drop here. So let's just get right to it. I did notice as well that I didn't have my sidechain trigger copied for this second half here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and fix that right now. Okay. Now let's just take a listen to see how that sounds. Okay, not really a whole lot different, but the attack of the kick definitely does come through a little bit better now that I've done that. So, all right, so let's copy this first part, just all of it. Anything else? Nope. Copy that, and let's paste it over here. Now, when you're doing big things like this, you want to make sure that lock envelopes is turned off because you want to copy any automations you've made. All right, Now let's drag this part on over. And let's copy this chord part too. Actually, no, I'm going to Control Z and just copy the entire drop. Okay. Now let's listen to make sure nothing horrible happened here. Okay. Pretty good. All right, so we need to maybe help this transition and loop better back into the first part. And the way we're going to do that is maybe start building up the kick right here and seeing how that sounds. So let's just put this on every other quarter beat here. All right. Maybe every quarter beat. And we'll get rid of the snare. All right, that sounds like it could work. Let's go ahead and duplicate this over to match the kick. Make sure our triggers are correct. Duplicate this. Now, we may have done this too early, but that's a decision we're going to have to make after listening, because we're going to need to choose whether to start this here or start it here. And if we do start it here, then we're going to need to speed it up again right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we'll be doing some high passing here so it doesn't sound just overwhelming. No. All right, and we're just gonna want to still have this snare here right at the end there. Okay. Now we're going to want to high pass this. Usually when I'm working with something that has very low frequency content, I like to make sure that even if I have the high pass set all the way down, that whenever I'm not using it for movement, that it's just turned off. Just because it does slightly affect your lower frequencies, and you want to make sure that all of that can be accounted for. All right, so now let's start filtering up here. And drop it again right here. Okay, we might want to actually speed it up again right here. Whoops. Okay. And we may want to filter it just a slight bit here. And then same goes for the chords. We have a high pass. No, we do not have a high pass. So let's put one. Now, since none of this is really supposed to contain sub-frequencies, I can just leave the auto filter on down at 26 Hertz because it's not really going to affect it in any way. So I don't need to automate the on-off. I just need to automate the cutoff. And then maybe right here where the snare is, I will just halt the chords completely. And the sub. All right, let's take a listen to what that sounds like so far. Okay, conceptually it sounds good. However, there's a couple problems we have right now. One is that the sub remains to go every little bit here is not being filtered. So we need to go ahead and either filter that, or better yet, when it comes to a sub, when you want to make a sub comply with an automation like this, it's better to automate the volume and just automate the volume downwards. Because essentially when you high pass a sub, it's going to be all or nothing. What I mean by that is that if you're high passing a sub, once you reach sort of its fundamental frequencies, it's just going to essentially sound like it turns off. So it's going to go from everything to almost like it's just gone. So it's better to automate the volume downwards to match a high pass on whatever that it's layering with. Okay, that sounds a lot better. Let's automate it more drastically right here, though. And I think the kick needed to have a little bit more of a noticeable automation right here. Ah, see, there's our problem. We had the auto filter turned off. That's why I didn't notice it. Okay, so this is probably a little too drastic. Let's bring it back down and then listen. All right, that sounds a lot better. I think this sub really might need to just kind of stop right here, because I did hear it still at the end, even with it being minus 24 dB. And then we might just bring it down here instead. Okay, and then one last aspect of this is we need to make use of white noise and pitch bends to accentuate this sort of build-up here. So I might just go ahead and copy this, these little two guys that we made earlier, and bring them over here. And let's hear how that sounds. That sounds good. Might want to cut them off with the chords though. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm gonna actually bring these out and then we got automations. Okay, I'll just leave those as they are for now. We can fine-tune things later, but I think conceptually this works, and it helps lead right back into this first drop part again. And it also helps this part overall not sound as repetitive. And another thing we might want to consider doing, and I'm probably going to do this, is add in another instrument here down in the mid channel, some sort of melody, maybe like an arpeggio, so that it's not just, 4 chords playing over and over again. So we'll think about doing that on the next episode, or we might just move forward here and variate the first half of the drop here again. But I'll do that on the next episode, so I'll see you then.